Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Jasmine Antoine. I'm so happy to have you if you're new here. If you end up enjoying the content here, go ahead and subscribe. Make sure you also hit that notification bell as well so that you're notified when new content is available. And if you'd like to receive even more from me, go ahead and follow me on IG. I am posting consistently over there to encourage you. And today we're talking about how to have a better and a closer relationship with Jesus. I'm super excited to talk about this. I mean, obviously y'all know I like talking about Jesus, but how to have a better and closer relationship with him. Let's go. Okay, I'm gonna share with y'all 2 ways on how you can have a better and closer relationship with Jesus. The first one is this. You have to build intimacy with the Lord in order to get closer to him. And in order to get closer to him, you need to spend time with him. My best relationships in life came from consistent intimacy. The belly laughs, the conversations filled with so much honesty, the crying, the times that I was most vulnerable, all of those things happen consistently in those relationships, and that's why they're so good. My best relationships came from quality time spent with the other person. And the relationships that I've lost over the years are gone because of lack of communication. There wasn't time spent together consistently, and so the relationship just kind of fell off. But the best relationships that I have in my life, and the relationships that still have a heartbeat because of the constant communication. How often are you communicating with God? Is it daily? Is it weekly? Is it monthly? Is it a few times throughout the week? How often are you communicating with the Lord? People have asked me how long should they spend time with God when they're reading their Bible or they're praying or they're worshiping. The question I usually respond with is, do you put a time limit on when you're hanging out with friends? We have some busy days, and so of course we'll have a time limit for days like those. But even in those moments when we're using time limits, like we're just hanging out with them for about 30 minutes or an hour, we are not wasting any time. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty. I'm letting you know what's going on in my heart. I'm letting you know all the juicy details that's happening. I'm getting to the point. And they're getting to the point too, because there's a time limit and we don't want to waste any time because we value the time spent together. There's other responsibilities in the day, and so we really want to make the most of that time by sharing every detail, by just getting down to it. Seconds nor minutes are wasted because there's a mutual understanding that we most likely won't be able to hear from each other later. Going back to that question, do you put a time limit on times that you're hanging out with friends? The days that you aren't so busy, where you block out hours or you block out the whole day to hang out with a friend, you're not rushing that time. No, you're not rushing that time. You're going with the flow. I know for me and my friends, we go with the flow. We're gonna hang out over here. Oh, you feeling hungry? Let's go over here. Oh, you wanna peep that? Let's go over there. We're enjoying the moment. We're vibing. There's no rush. We're just enjoying each other's presence. But once we get to the place to where our hearts are full, then we'll go our separate ways. If your days are pretty busy, just make sure you block out a good amount of time. You know, I don't want to tell you what that time should be, but I would say that 30 minutes to an hour is good. You know, if you're just starting off with your time with God, maybe start off with 15, 20 minutes. Just get something in. Get something in. Just spend time with him. But if your days are not busy, don't rush it. Don't rush the moment. Don't rush the experience. Just bask in the Lord's presence. Just like you wouldn't put a cap on when you're spending time with a really good friend, don't put a cap on when you're spending time with God. If you have that freedom in your day, don't put a cap on it. Just enjoy the moment. Psalms 84:10 says, better is one day in your course than 1,000 elsewhere. The people who wrote this psalm understood that God's presence was it. They understood that God's presence was the treasure. There wasn't anything greater than his presence, and that's still true today. Instagram isn't better, TikTok isn't better, Facebook isn't better, YouTube isn't better, your friends aren't better, your family isn't better, your spouse isn't better. Like, nothing is better than spending time with God. They came to this realization by being in God's presence, and every person who comes to this realization is because they've been in God's presence. If you don't have that same thought, if you don't have that mindset, it's because you haven't spent enough time with God. You don't understand how great you have it with God. We won't understand how amazing a person is until we spend a good amount of time with them, and that's the same way with God. You won't understand how glorious and amazing and majestic and beautiful he is if you're not spending time with him. But you can come to this realization and have this same heart in Psalm 84:10. Better is your presence than anything else, God. Like, I don't care about the trips over there. I don't care about shopping over here. I don't care about what's going on social media. I don't care about what's happening on the TV right now. Better is your presence, God, than 1,000 elsewhere. You can have that heart by spending time with him, because when you spend time with him, you'll understand how amazing and how sweet Jesus is. We won't desire God's presence, and we won't have a better and closer relationship with him by standing at a distance. Just like you wouldn't have a closer and better relationship with someone else, maybe at your job or in your family, by standing at a distance, by not coming closer to them, by not getting to know them and, actually sitting down and listening to their heart. You just won't be able to know people unless you spend time with them. And that's the same way with God. You won't be able to have a closer relationship with God if you're not spending time with him. It's just plain and simple. It's really just plain and simple. If you want to grow in your relationship with Jesus, spend time with him, get close to him, grow in intimacy with him. And what I mean by intimacy is just like pour your heart out to God. I've said this several times on this channel, but it's so true. If you want to get closer to Jesus, pour your heart out to him. Girl, fill up a prayer journal, okay? Talk to God, pour your heart out to him. The more you talk to God, the greater your intimacy will be with him. And listen to him. Intimacy isn't just you pouring your heart out to him. It's also God pouring his heart out to you, because he has a lot he wants to say to you, but you won't be able to hear those things if you're not reading your word. Yes, the Lord uses so many other things to speak to us, but listen, the main way that God is gonna speak to us is through his word. The second thing you need to do is obey God. When a person feels disrespected by another person, there's a strain on the relationship. I want you to think of disobeying God as the same as disrespecting him. When you disrespect God, there's a strain on the relationship. When you disobey God, there's a strain in your relationship now with God. Because sin separates us from being in good standing with him. You'll have his love. You have the love of God. There's nothing that can separate you from the love of God. But sin separates us from being in good standing with God. Y'all know the story of David and Goliath, right? If y'all don't know the story, definitely go check it out. It's fire. The Bible says that Goliath was defying God's army. And if you defying God's people, you defying him, period. To defy means to openly resist or refuse to obey. Some of us are like Goliath in heart. We're resisting God. We're refusing to obey. Some of us are refusing to follow God's ways, like refusing to bash another person with our mouth instead of just, blessing them, like serving another person when it's hard, and being compassionate and being kind and forgiving and bearing with one another and being patient and understanding that we all got issues. Some more of God's ways is submitting to authority and submitting to your spouse and sowing good seeds. Like, these are some of the ways of the Lord, but a lot of us are refusing to obey God. A lot of us are resisting God. A lot of us are saying, well, I really don't feel like doing it. I feel like there's another way, God. I feel like this person deserves this, and I don't feel like I need to do that. I feel like I deserve this. That's very demanding and that's very prideful, and it's just not the way of the Lord. The way of God is having a humble heart, a submissive heart. We have to understand that being like Goliath in heart only leads to defeat in our life. To have a great relationship with God, James 4:8 says to submit yourselves to the Lord and resist the enemy. You have to submit yourself to God's ways. You literally have to put yourself on the shelf and submit yourself to whatever the Lord is teaching you to do, whatever he has spoken to your heart to do. Like, not just say your will be done, but actually live it and resist the enemy. That's how you have a closer and better walk with Jesus. When we're obeying him, we're showing our allegiance to him. When we're obeying God, we're honoring him and we're loving him. Okay, so the two ways that you can grow in your relationship with Jesus, the two ways that you can have a better and amazing relationship with God is to spend time with him, be intimate with the Lord, pour your heart out to God, and allow him to pour his heart out into you. And the second thing is to obey him. Don't resist God. Don't resist his ways. Submit yourself to the Lord. And as I'm talking to y'all about this, I'm also preaching to myself, okay? Like, let's submit ourselves to God's ways, all right? If you enjoyed this video, please do me a favor by sending this video to someone else, by sharing it with someone else. When you share it with someone else, it actually helps the algorithm and it helps other people see this video as well. I love y'all. Jesus loves you so much more, and I'll see y'all again in the next video. Bye.